Chief, would you start us in the pledge, please? Yes, sir.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Victor, would you please lead us in prayer?
Yes. Father God in heaven, we come before you in the mighty name of your Son, Jesus. And we thank you for everything that you're doing here in this new year. God, the 20s, Lord, never thought I'd live in the 20s, but here we are. God, we ask for your guidance. We ask for your mercy. We ask for your companionship through our journey, God. Have mercy upon us. In the mighty name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Need a roll call, please?
Counselor Johnson?
Here.
Counselor Lorenz?
Here.
Counselor Segala?
Here.
Counselor Ellithorpe?
Here.
Mayor Becker?
Here.
A quorum is declared.
Modifications to agenda?
Yes, we have a modification to disregard number 4 under N, staff proposals and reports. Information technology will not be here this evening.
I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded, to modify the agenda to remove the IT off of the staff proposal reports in action. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Segala?
Aye.
Counselor Ellithorpe?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Counselor Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries for modifications.
Approval of consent agenda, minutes of regular meeting December 5th, and review and approval of accounts payable. Everybody look at those?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda for the minutes of regular meeting December 5th and review and approval of accounts payable. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Johnson?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Counselor Ellithorpe?
Aye.
Counselor Segala?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Proclamations, communications, and appointments. Nita, is this your gillywag?
Yes, sir.
Should I get a definition of it?
Let me Google.
Good evening, counselors. Tonight's a very special night. First of all, sad hearts, but thankful. We're going to say goodbye to 2 of our council members. We'd like to thank you for serving on the Monte Vista Council. As your term of service ends and you leave this council, we, the City of Monte Vista staff, wish you the very best. We want you to know that your commitment to the city has been greatly appreciated. It is through community leaders like you that the City of Monte Vista is able to provide service to the citizens and to help make a better community. Kathleen Ellithorpe, Kathy Lorenz, you have each made many differences within the City of Monte Vista. And now you will start a new adventure, and we want to wish you the very best. May all of you have success in your future, and may you always remember how much you are appreciated for all that you have done with the City of Monte Vista. And we got you guys a little going away gift.
Thank you.
So we got them a little keychain, and it says, "Great leaders." I can't even remember what it says. Great leaders inspire greatness in others, and it says thank you.
Thank you.
You're my co-sister.
So we have an issue.
Yes, yeah. That's it.
It's not
Oh,
like
I
you
did,
know. I just want to say thank you to the rest of council and the mayor and to the folks at the city. It has been such an educational experience and so much fun, and I felt very fortunate and blessed to be a part of this group. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Continue
you.
forward.
Thank you, girls. Some more girls.
So the next item on the agenda is to swear in our new council member, Larry Foster. So if you raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Larry Foster,
I, Larry Foster,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Monte Vista,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Monte Vista,
and that I will faithfully perform
and I will faithfully perform
the duties of office of counselor,
the duties of office of counselor,
which I am about to enter.
which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Okay.
There, we got you tagged up, man.
I am. Look at that.
And there you go, sir.
Thank you.
That is your copy.
Very good.
Welcome to cover.
Thank you.
Council, Larry. Now you're council.
Now I'm officially counselor.
All right, citizen comments, special presentations. We don't have any scheduled appearances. So we'll go on to citizen comments. City Council welcomes your unscheduled comments. Please limit the comments to 3 minutes. Council will not take action at this same meeting. Anybody have any comments? No comments? No comments from Tara? Thank you.
Whenever you see your left.
Why?
Never mind.
You obviously don't know Tara. So we are going to move right on down to K for ordinances. Emergency ordinance to comply with federal law, ordinance 900, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Monte Vista, Colorado, adopting a new Article 9 of Chapter 4 of the Monte Vista Code concerning tobacco retailer licensing. Nita?
So before you, you have an emergency ordinance, as you read, to adopt Article 9, Chapter 4. That will be a new article and a new chapter in the Monte Vista Code. This is a ordinance that we are asking for council to approve. This is to also comply with the federal law that just took effect January 1st, 2020. It's to raise the age limit of anyone purchasing nicotine products, including vaping pens and vaping products, from 18 to 21. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. Also, Paul and the students have also put their input in on this. So-
Was there some products that weren't, I guess, how do I say it, that will still be able to be purchased at age 18?
Anything nicotine will not be allowed to be purchased if you are under 21. And when I put together the ordinance, At that time, it hadn't been a federal law, and Paul and the Rio Grande Prevention had come before you asking for this. There's several other communities in the state of Colorado that have done this. And now that the federal law has taken effect, we feel that this just kind of puts a nail in the coffin to help protect our youth.
Well, I would, if there's nobody else has any questions.
Actually, I had one question about the, specifically relating to vaping, not necessarily tobacco. But vaping is kind of a broader picture. I mean, anything can be included in a vaping product from THC, which of course is regulated. Age 21, but it's my understanding that maybe it's not a clear misunderstanding, maybe it is a misunderstanding, I don't know, about the potential other products that can be included in a vaping device.
So to my understanding, the federal law isn't 100% clear, correct, Paul?
Yeah, I can speak to
And
that.
he knows a lot more about the vaping products than I do, but I can tell you that in this ordinance, it actually covers all vaping products of any kind, nicotine and vaping products.
Okay, okay. Did you want-
I believe in this ordinance.
Paul, if you'd like to come up here.
Yes, absolutely. Paul Wertz from Public Health here in Rio Grande County. I believe the ordinance here is stating any nicotine-containing product, really. In the definition of tobacco product, here it says, anything consumed, whether smoked, heated, chewed, absorbed, dissolved, inhaled, ingested, or by any other means, not limited to cigarettes, tobacco, pipe tobacco, chewing tobacco, snuff, or snus. Tobacco product means any electronic smoking device, tobacco paraphernalia, or any component or part used in the consumption of any tobacco product, including the filters and papers and liquids in the smoking devices.
Okay, I guess that was part of my question, is that, is there, I'm not an expert on vaping, but it seems to me there's other products besides nicotine that can be ingested through the device. Maybe not all of them harmful, but.
I don't know that we have ability to regulate anything other than like nicotine-containing products or THC-containing products. We don't know what to ban on another product that may not contain those substances.
Mhm.
There is some talk that some vape things do not have nicotine. From what we have found, practically all of them really do. The product label is incorrect, and it actually does contain nicotine.
Okay. Well, we can research that other, I guess. From what I've read in the news accounts, they don't always mention nicotine. There's something, the lung disease and some other things that have come from all of that seem to be connected to.
Some of the added products in that, and that is believed to be true. However, we do know that nicotine is a addictive, harmful, substance for our youth as well. So.
Well, that's certainly the top of the list.
I believe there is some work on the FDA level and things like that they are looking at some of these other flavor products and are evaluating the harmfulness of them. I don't believe we're at a point where that's a point we can move forward on really, though.
All right, I just want to make sure that's all covered, so we can look into that later.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You've had a discussion here, but the other issue, and I read through the ordinance, don't know if I caught the part about the control, the licensing and all of that. I know that's in there, but is it similar, as we were talking about originally, to the liquor licensing?
No, so we actually, because the feds have approved this, we do not have to do the licensing part of it. And I did take the licensing part of it out of this ordinance because with it being federally regulated, if you go around town now, the stores that sell nicotine products have already been given the order to up the age limit to 21 by federal law. So we don't have to do a licensing within the city limits because it's already federally regulated through the state, or through the
So we have
feds.
essentially the same control as if we,
Correct. So currently, I mean, prior to January 1st, you could be 18 and go in and buy a pack of cigarettes. Now you cannot. As of January 1st, 2020, even without our ordinance, you cannot go into a gas station and buy a pack of cigarettes unless you are 21.
I guess my question had to do with if there's an offense, our options for enforcement under the current cigarette rules weren't anywhere near as strict as what it is for liquor licensing. Liquor licensing meaning, all I'm getting at there is that if there has been an offense of any kind during the period of time of the licensing, then the license comes up for renewal, and then we have the option of not renewing that license.
And like I said, because it is federally mandated and it came from the feds, we don't have to do that licensing unless you as council choose to move that direction. If you choose to move that direction, I mean, I've already got the license application prepared, and if you choose to move forward with that, we can table this until the next meeting, and I can get you that license. That is entirely up to council what they would like to do with the ordinance. If you would like it to be more strictly regulated with a license application, I'd be more than happy to do that for you, because like I said, it's already been prepared, because we weren't aware that the feds were going to change the age limit to begin with.
Okay, so the only thing, my only concern is enforcement, that's all. And if we have that same latitude under the federal regulations, then that's fine. But
And
we can look at that later.
If I'm correct, the police officers have that, if they get caught selling to an underage, the police officers can inform myself and I can report that to the feds. And then they do whatever they need to do on their end. But, I mean, there is a step, just like if a liquor license is violated, it's reported to me and then I report it to the state and then bring it to you guys as a hearing.
Yeah, I was bringing it all up because it's obviously been a strong cause with me. And I just want to make sure that it's going to be properly implemented so that we actually bring a stop to this or as much as possible. So
And it's entirely up to you as council which way you want to move forward.
Just a question real quick. Are you familiar with any other municipalities that are regulating and approving tobacco licenses?
So the Greenwood Village and Castle Pines both do the applications, but there have been talk amongst the clerks that they're going to pull those applications because of the federal law. And again, it's each municipality and how council wants to handle it. If you want to be stricter, you can. You just have to follow the federal laws. So if we choose to be stricter, we can do that.
We can certainly review that at another time, just seeing how things are going. Did you have any input on that, Chief?
So are you saying like reviewing this like as tabling this matter?
Oh, no,
Or?
no,
Okay.
no, we can look at it later to see about enforcement. Did you have any?
I think the federal government's pretty restrictive on their licensing for tobacco products. There's a lot of, it's a pretty cash crop, and they'll follow the rules.
Yeah, that's fine.
Any other discussion?
Any more discussion? No? For me?
Well, I would move to approve ordinance 900, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Monte Vista, Colorado, adopting a new Article 9 of Chapter 4 of the Monte Vista Code concerning tobacco retailer licensing as adopted by federal law.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 900, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Monte Vista, Colorado, adopting a new article 9 of Chapter 4 of the Monte Vista Code concerning tobacco retailer licensing is adopted by federal law, which went into effect January 1st of 2020. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Foster?
Aye.
Counselor Johnson?
Aye.
Counselor Segola?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries to approve emergency ordinance 900 for the nicotine law for Article 9, Chapter 4 of the Monte Vista Municipal Code.
Do I need to read that? Nita,
I'm sorry?
do we need to read that ordinance?
No, you do not.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Okay, contracts, agreements, and leases. DOLA planning grant application?
Good evening, Mayor, councilors. Welcome Ward Councilor Foster.
Sir?
In front of you this evening, you have a DOLA planning grant application. Unlike some of the other DOLA grants, the city has applied for 2 Tier 1 grants. This is a planning grant, which actually the grant is submitted by simply by this letter. So there's not a full-blown application process, et cetera, like there are for the Tier 1 or Tier 2 grants. And the city previously received one of these last year through the initial design work on Sky High, which was completed successfully. As you all may recall, and Councilor Foster, you may not recall this part, but in the budget this year in community development, we budgeted $15,000 to attempt to be part of the Colorado Challenge program put on by Downtown Colorado, Inc. And they work statewide on economic development programs. And it was our hope that we would write a successful application for this program, and we did. So that was step one. Part of it, though, also, which generally happens with these, is that there's a summit, if you will, in April that we're going to send some people to, and we'll talk more about who will go to that. But we budgeted $15,000. And so what they usually look for is $10,000 from the community and $10,000 from DOLA. If the council approves the mayor signing this letter this evening, actually have a meeting next week, I think, with Christy Doon, and I will bring this up for them. But these are discretionary grants the state has, and asking for $10,000 is not particularly difficult. But it would continue to move this Colorado Challenge program forward. This is kind of our economic development project for this year. Try to work with the community to do some placemaking and re-energizing the downtown business core. We could also utilize some funds from our enterprise funds. We have 2, as you all know. One is the Sky High Project Enterprise Fund, and that's actually doing really well in contributions. And then we have the Downtown Revitalization Program itself, which is more involved with the URA so far, but we did actually just receive a $1,000 donation for that this year as well, and that could be partially used to offset this conference, and I discussed that with the donors. So it's my request from the council tonight that you approve submission of this grant application for $10,000.
Is this just or is it a motion?
I think you'd need a motion, Councilor.
Can I ask a question? Is this this is similar to the grant and the program, if I'm not getting my programs mixed up here, with Center?
It is similar to that, yes. It's the same program.
That's been very, can you comment about that? I mean, that was, as far as I know, that was extremely successful.
Right, and it is very similar, and they've done this in, 10 or 15 communities across the state, and Center was one of the most recent ones. They've also done it in some other ones, and actually, when I first heard about it, we did it with some really small communities, and it's created some successes. I mean, it's not a, doesn't fix everything, but it does give some ideas. I think the most interesting thing is it helps develop possibilities for vacant properties and for redevelopment of your business core. And that was kind of what they did with Center. We also talked about expanding, in Center they have that north 40, I'll call it, it's more than 40 acres, I can't remember the exact size, but looking at how that might redevelop or be developed. So there's a lot of good pieces of it, and essentially as you get into the process, you get an opportunity to have consultants from the University of Colorado School of Public Affairs and some other professionals work to develop a program for your community. And you get to go in front of, it's kind of like Rural Philanthropy Days, you get to go in front of a couple funders with your ideas. And potentially, you're not going to get a ton of money, but, $25,000 or $35,000 towards economic development could be really useful for our community.
Well, I move to approve the DOLA planning grant application as presented by city manager.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the DOLA planning grant application. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Foster?
Aye.
Counselor Segola?
Aye.
Counselor Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries to approve the DOLA grant application for $10,000.
Got your other paperwork up there for us?
I do, Mr. Mayor, councilors, so, and Carla's here this evening to talk about this as well. So I'm not going to talk too long, that way you guys don't get totally bored. And Carla can talk about this somewhat, but basically, as you all know, we're partners with Friends of Sky High, and they're working really diligently to raise an amazing amount of money to do this project over at Sky High, and most everyone in the community is familiar with that. Of course, our voters approved the 1 cent tax initiative, and part of that goes to the Sky High project as well. But we also have, as I kind of prefaced, enterprise zone designation for the Sky High project. So that essentially means people can make donations and get a Colorado tax credit for them. It's a minimum of $100, and if they make that, then I'm the lucky person who gets to put all that stuff in the OEDIT portal for that. So part of the concern, if you will, was to make sure that those funds were segregated. So we actually have set up a separate banking account at Rio Grande Savings and Loan Association. And it's only for the enterprise funds, the enterprise zone qualified funds that the city receives. However, the Friends of Sky High also have an account there for non-enterprise zone donations, grants, etc., which, Carla can talk about a little bit, but that's kind of the bulk of the money, if you will. Ours will be a smaller amount, although we have received, I think, I'm going to say about $62,000, $64,000 so far, and there's another $50,000 that's already pledged. So that's actually doing really well. I think we'll end up with $150,000, $200,000 towards the project, which, is great. But they'll have the bulk of the project, but then the project itself will be contracted through the city. We're anticipating going back to DOLA for a larger $1 million construction grant. So there's a lot of pieces of it. So we want to be able to make sure we could account for all the funds that went in and went out, just in case if there's anyone who has any questions or issues, it's very transparent. So that's the basis of what this agreement is about. And I think, Carla, if you want to talk about it from your side, that'd be great.
Yeah. Thank you, Council. You can call me Hop Along tonight, so. Anyway, we've got a wonderful collaboration project going here, and we are going to be dealing with a very large sum of money, and we want to make sure our groups understand what is going to happen and that the public understands what's going to happen. We want this to be a very transparent process. And in doing so, this memorandum is just outlining that, yes, there are two accounts, because when we go to do our grant applications for foundations, most of them will want to contribute to the 501c3, which is the one account that Forrest mentioned that's at Rio Grande, and is actually the Monte Vista Community Fund. But it's a separate account only for Sky High funds. It does not include any of the other funds that the Community Fund administers. And then the city setting up their capital account for Sky High, it just assures that this project, all funds are accounted for in our monies, and that when we go to, well, when the city goes to make payments, you know, we have a paper trail. And again, it's just for transparency, and that we can account for all these dollars and be responsible to the public for their monies that they're giving to us. And as Forrest mentioned, we are. In this very short time that we've started seeking donations, we've received several, and I know of a couple others that are coming in as we speak. And a lot of it is because they know that, you know, being assured that we are very transparent, and they like the thought of these capital accounts. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, if somebody wants to look at them, they're more than welcome to look at them. But I would respectfully ask that you folks, you know, approve this. It's really not a binding agreement. It's just a understanding of how the funds will be administered. When we need to pay invoices, the city sends us a letter and we'll send them the money. And it's just a good tracking system for the accounting of the money is what we're asking for in this particular agreement. Mm-hmm.
It'd be nice to have a motion to authorize the mayor to sign this document.
Mm-hmm.
I would move to approve the mayor to sign the document for the financial agreement of considering this.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for the mayor to approve to sign the contract between the city, or not so much contract, but the paperwork improvement project for Sky High Park. So is there any more discussion?
Oh, Carla, you did mention or maybe you were talking about this for the enterprise zone, and that's kind of folded into all of this, but I guess I just wanted to clarify, if somebody did want to make a donation, then it would go to the Friends under this agreement. It would go to the Friends of Sky High or to the city.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's up to the donor,
Yeah, I mean, well,
really.
so if they want the enterprise zone credit,
Yeah.
essentially they write the check to the city, right? It's the same as writing it to the nonprofit, but they're wanting the tax credit that then we're the authorized agent, if you will, for that, and then it goes through that. I put it in a portal, they come back with certificates, which I've already got the first ones, you know, back, and I'll be sending out letters with those in the mail. So, but there is a enterprise zone fund strictly for the Sky High project, and people are wanting to donate. If they still want 2019 tax credits, they can get those through March 15th of 2020, as long as their check is dated December 31st of 2019. Now, that's tax law. I checked that one very closely. Seriously, I asked those questions because it's like a 457 or IRA or something where you can do that. If they want it for 2020, all they have to do is, you know, date it, whatever the date is of 2020, and they'll get the tax credit for that. But they get an official form from OEBIT that says what the value of the credit is, and it's 25% of the donation, essentially.
And that, just for clarification for the people watching and here, or whatever, that is the $100 minimum.
That's a $100 minimum.
So you can donate what you want, but in order to get the enterprise credit,
You need $100.
it has to be minimum $100. So just clear that up. But, yeah.
And Counselor, thank you for bringing that up. It's not live as we speak, but Friends of Sky High does have a website, and it will be live shortly. But it will explain all of this, and it will also have more detailed information about the enterprise zone tax credits and how that might affect a person. And of course, we also recommend that they visit with their accountant and so they can discuss their own individual tax needs and, you know, consequences to their individual circumstances. But our website will be live here shortly, and again, it will outline the two accounts, whether a donor wants to donate to the 501c3, or should it want to donate and get an enterprise zone tax credit, they would write it to the city. So.
I also wanted to add, I'm sure this will come up again, but appreciate your work and your effort, and which showed very specifically at the day before yesterday's meeting at the county, to get the county on board for this whole project. It didn't amount to a lot of money, but a huge help and a huge statement on the part of the county, and that was because of your group getting that started, so we appreciate that.
Well, thank you. And I would like to thank the city and all of those who participated in those meetings. It was wonderful to see everyone. I myself wasn't there, but I heard about it. And from what I understand, the chamber, the council chamber or commissioner chamber, it was 2/3, 3/4 full on every meeting, which speaks loudly of the importance of this project to the community, and that the community does want this to move forward. And I would also like to thank Forrest and Jennifer for their communication right now. I think we're doing really good. We've got a great communication line going, and hopefully it'll stay that way. And I don't foresee it not. But this is going to work, and this is going to be a great thing for this community. And I think we all should be proud of the grassroots effort that's taking place and the momentum that's underway as we go. If I may, I would like to make a suggestion. Whenever we do make grant applications, one of the things that there's always a question is, have all the either board members, committee members, all have made a financial contribution to the project. So I would like to challenge each of the council members, everyone in this room, because it's not the dollar amount at times that counts, it's the number of contributions. You know, that speaks highly as well. But a lot of times in these grant applications, there is a question, has all of your board members or committee members made a contribution financially? This isn't a race, this isn't a contest to see who makes the most, but if it could be $5, $10, $25, $50, $100, $1,000, whatever someone can make according to their own financial position. We don't want to ask anyone to contribute above their own financial individual means. It has to be within their budget. That's not the purpose. The purpose is we all believe in this project and we all contribute to it in some financial way. And that speaks highly to our funders. And that's one reason we've set our goal at $875,000 because that's 10% of what we need to raise. And that will speak highly to these major grant foundations that the community is indeed behind this project. So I would like to challenge everyone here. We are asking our committee members the same question, but again, we just hope everyone feels this is a very worthwhile project to contribute financially. Again, it's not so much the dollar amount, it's the number and then the well-being to say, I am a part of that project. And as our kind of little motto that we're saying is this project embodies our past, it serves our present, and it's our future. So this definitely is a neat project that serves us all well. And I thank council for what they've done and the partnership and collaboration, not only council but staff and the community. I mean, this definitely is a grassroots effort, and we all should be proud of that.
Thank you, Carla. I appreciate all the hard work that everybody's done as well. It's not been an easy road. This has been, what, 25 years in the making to get this far? Probably, wouldn't you say, Carla? At least. And it's had some real struggles, and I agree with the fact that when the tax initiative passed, that said a lot from the community, that they're in support of a lot of things that are going on, and that's what this is about, community. So, well, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Nita, would you mind?
Counselor Foster?
Aye.
Counselor Johnson?
Aye.
Counselor Segala?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries for the mayor to sign the financial agreement for Sky High.
Like a bad penny. Well, I'm not going to add a lot to my written report other than to talk a little bit about, there was a lot of community work done to get that proposal in front of the county commissioners. And I think there was a lot of discussion that was taken to the commissioners by citizens. And I think that was really helpful. There's particularly a number of citizens who were able to talk to individual commissioners and help them to see the light of the proposal. It's $150,000 of CTF funds, which was awarded by the county commissioners. CTF can be used for recreational purposes only. But once again, it kind of goes back to what Carla was saying about the symbolism of it. $150,000 on an $8.6 million project is not a whole lot, right? But the symbology of that, or the symbolism, is that the county did make a commitment. They asked about what the city's commitment was, which, is at minimum $235,000 a year for as far as you can see when this is built. So, the city's got a lot of skin in this game, and we have had over the years. Obviously, we're going to own this, but it's going to happen because of the community, not because of the city. The commissioners, at least one commissioner, brought up having a commission to run Sky High, and that's an interesting discussion. And certainly we didn't voice any opposition to that at the time. But my opinion that I would give to the council, that's fine as long as people that sit on the commission have skin in the game. We've got let's just say $225,000 a year, and we own the property. So if people want to have an equivalency, I think that's reasonable to ask. We have great partners. The users groups have been working on this. That's the cool thing about this, is all the users groups have come together and been able to work out a design in a program for it that's very beneficial to the community. And I think the solidarity there has been great, and people have volunteered a lot of their time to get there. So it's very exciting for our community. As we talked a little bit about, so we have set up a separate bank account. We've got that all done. Thank you for approving that agreement, if you will, this evening. And it's for anyone who wants to see those, it is very transparent. The paperwork on it, since I'm basically the one doing that, I can guarantee you there's copies and there's copies and there's copies. And, it's very, and the funds that come in for those enterprise zone credits are not actually going through the city financial system, because they are going directly to that one account, which our software doesn't really support. So it's all deposit slips. It's all backed up by paper. In this day and age, here we are cranking out paper. I had some fun with that today. But it is a very good system that we've derived with the help of our finance director. So looking forward to that moving forward. Other than that, it's a new year, and things ought to be pretty interesting. We're moving in a really good, solid direction, and as we go forward with this DCI thing, I will let you all know how that's going, but good reason for optimism here. And that's all I have, unless anybody has questions.
I do not. I appreciate all the hard work for us. You and Jen, you've done a lot.
Well, thanks, Mayor. I noticed you at a few of those meetings as well, so appreciate that.
I was bringing the heat.
Right. Thank you. Your pocket knives.
You got financial something going on here?
No, that's just your budget books for 2020.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Trujillo. Front and center, sir.
Okay. Mayor, council, happy new year to everybody, and welcome Councilman Foster. I'm sure it'll be a fun adventure going forward, and he says he hasn't ever done this before, so I think it'll be a real good experience. And I really think you're kind of at the ground level of things happening in Monte Vista, and I've shared a few things with Forrest, and there's a lot of money coming into Monte Vista and being invested here, and property is being transferred to folks, and you'll probably hear a little bit more about that maybe at the next meeting. I've asked the gentleman to come in here that's investing here in Monte and kind of give a little talk to you and get to meet you folks as well. So a lot of things are going on, a lot of good things. The vaping ordinance, I think, is good that you acted on that, and it's really interesting that you have young folks coming up and asking maybe us older folks to take a look at things and act on things that are going to affect our younger generation. And so even though the feds passed on it, we're ready to go. We've been working on it with Nita for about a month. She's been messing with it, and so I think it's a good position to take to let people know that we care and that we have an interest in our youth. And so I applaud that action on the council. I don't have a whole lot. We've been 2 days into the new year, so it's not like there's a whole lot going on. But last month we were busy in court as usual. Our courts are getting busier, it seems like, and things are going well, from money coming in, from tickets that are being written. Almost 98% of folks will end up pleading in some fashion. So that means the police are writing good tickets. We've had a couple of trials, and we're successful in the ones that we have had. So it's not like they're just picking on everybody and writing bogus tickets. I mean, they're writing good stuff, and it's being worked on, and we're able to make good deals as a result. So, I keep saying this is a team effort from the police to the courts to the prosecution to our clerks and our whole council. It's really a team effort here, and I think things are just going well from the court system. Did up a notice for a public hearing on the sale of the ambulance bays. That will be, I think, kind of interesting to see how that goes. It'll be kind of a first for us. I've basically taken an opinion that we are able to sell city property and furnish that to folks, and it'll be kind of interesting to see how that works out and how that first public hearing goes. But that will be on for the next meeting. Other than that, don't have too much going at this point. There's just always, sometimes the courts are busy, and when they're not busy, some other part of the city is busy, and so there are always things going, and the wheels are turning. So other than that, I really don't have too much at this point, but I think it's going to be an exciting year coming up with a lot of things going on in the city and a lot of good things. So, any other questions? I'd be glad to entertain them if anybody has any.
Not at the moment. Appreciate you, man.
Okay, thank you, Council.
Chief?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Talk about burning trees, I apologize. I really wanted to present the year end, closer to the year end, and I'm gonna miss the next meeting, partially because I'm gonna be out of the country, enjoying myself a little bit, having some fun. But we're also gonna present on LEAD, and it's gonna probably take a 20 or 30-minute presentation. So with my long wind and their long wind, that would have been a lot of wind for our next meeting. So I'm gonna do mine this time, but I didn't want to wait till February to give you kind of the year end. So this is kind of what this is about. Before you is, everybody have their copy. Kind of similar to last year, we talked about events that we kind of get involved in from like a community standpoint or from more of a department standpoint, not just one officer or two officer, but it's it's a lot of time. There's a lot of effort, it's a lot of fun. We learn a lot, we get a lot of interaction with the public, and I really do think that's what drives community policing is contact, and usually when we're called there, it's not the kind of contact that drives that. So having this proactive approach, I think, really kind of helps. So I appreciate having the opportunity and the support and the time. It's not cheap. You can ask Jenny. Overtime, we have a pretty big budget to do it, but I really do think it's where we get our bread and butter of interaction with the police is when we have a chance to interact with the community outside of a call for service, because that's usually not the best day for the public, and that has a tendency to be sometimes not the best interaction with the police. So those are our events. Statistics, I broke it out the last 3 years, and I can give you opinions, but I don't always know exactly what this means. From left to right, you're increasing in numbers in a lot of things, but you're decreasing in the years. So 12,000 calls, 14,000 calls, 16,000 calls. We've reduced calls significantly, while keeping summons relatively the same. Crime events have actually gone up, so we've found some more crime, even though we've been called to less crime. Again, I can give you my opinions. I think the officers are more respondent. They're taking calls seriously. The reports are being done properly. They're being filed. They end up in cases, and they end up in prosecution. That's my thought, as opposed to just showing up and doing whatever. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And the crime events, while they're not necessarily going down by these numbers, they are absolutely, I think, going down because I mandate reports on every crime, and that was not the case. So to have crime reports going up, while it used to not be mandatory to take a report unless the reporting party or the victim wanted one, I think says a lot. So I do think while it kind of looks a little different on paper, I think behind the scenes there's a lot going on. And the same with citations. I think it's a quality of citation as opposed to the quantity of citation. And then arrests, some of that's about how we do business. We call just about anything an arrest. There's a non-custodial or custodial arrest. You may go to jail, you may just get a ticket, but we quantify all those as arrests. So again, less tickets, less arrests, kind of goes in line, generally with things, even though our crime events are still kind of up there. I don't know what to think about everything, but we'll talk about a few more statistics here in a little bit. Administration-wise, I think, 5 out of those 6 areas are what most leaders think are the pillars of an organization. They're the people, the policy, the training, the supervision, and the discipline. And that's what keeps an organization strong and running right. And I think those are the keys to where I think those five of those 6 areas are. And then the last one I think is our equipment, especially in policing. You can lose people by bad equipment, probably can gain people by having good equipment. So I do think it's one of the things that is improving in Monte Vista that's helping us with some of the things I'm going to talk about here in a minute, are retention and recruitment. And I think that was one that was really hard to do when you had a lot of those 6 areas that we were struggling in. And I think for the most part, those were pretty solid in all 6 areas. We have good people, We're nearly done with a 500-page policy manual, which, while I think it's ridiculous, it's required. It's how we do business in modern policing. It's very hard to know a great deal of those pages, but it's always there as a reference, and hopefully when you're talking about discretionary time, you can take a time out, go check out the manual, and then make a decision. Non-discretionary, it's tough. When you have to make a decision on the fly and you have to have a lot of policy in your head, it's tricky. But that's the way of policing. It's a difficult job. Training, same thing. We have the mandatory training. We have a post organization, which is police officers standing in training in Colorado, and we're in complete compliance. When I got here in 2017, I think we spent the last 10 days trying to stay in compliance. So it was a panic mode. We were done in June this year. I think we were done in August last year. So we're just doing better and better about having training, and now we're going beyond. So the mandatory minimum is just that. It's the minimum. It's what we have to have by law, so to speak, by post requirements. But we're going way beyond that. And that's, I think, some of the reasons why we're getting better decisions, better investigations, better citations, on and on. Supervision and discipline, I can't say enough about my leaders. My 4 leaders have been, 5, counting Irene, have been in place for a long time. And they're very good at what they do. Discipline, we went from 4 IAs in 2018 to 1 IA in 2019. Good people make mistakes, but they don't typically turn into investigations that require a lot of money and a lot of time and outside investigators, and that decrease has been very helpful. We did lose that officer, but that's still from 4 to 1, that's a good thing. I talked about replacement schedules for duty equipment. We've spent a lot of money on radios, tasers, everything that the officers carry. They have brand new pistols, really good quality uniforms. I think they look good, they're safe. And I think from a personal equipment standpoint, we're there. Our last hurdle is going to be vehicles. And we're working on that. I think the voters are going to be very happy that 1 cent is going to be part of that. The vehicles it's tough. We're between the jail and detox. We drive to Alamosa, we drive to Del Norte. We spend a lot of time on the road, and policing takes just that. It takes us being mobile. Now, while we're trying to be selective in our enforcement, it still takes us out there on the road. And we went from 5 cars to 10 now, so we're spreading the miles. I think we're going to get there, but that's kind of our last hurdle is our fleet. Code enforcement is a struggle. I don't know how to put this in perspective for sure, but the last city was 37,000 people. We had 8 code enforcement officers, an administrator, a supervisor, 2 animal control for 37,000. We have 1 for 5,000 here. Does all of that. And we have a culture that does not want to be told what to do. Plain and simple. When it comes to your dog poop or your bad shed, it's your business. And that's pretty tough because that's not the case. The thickest part of the code, or thickest part of the legal code is code, not criminal code. It's where to build your shed, how high it can be, how tall your weeds can be, and yet we have the most trouble getting compliance with that part of the code. It's tricky. So staffing that has been tough. Fighting with the citizens has been tough, but we'll continue to make that fight. But that is probably an area that we're going to have to address and figure out where that's going to fit into economic development and the kind of things that we're talking about to take Monte Vista into that next realm, because I don't think it's going to work like we're doing it. But we'll work on that. Next page, snapshot. You got to be happy. We've reduced burglaries by 50% over the last 3 years. That was one of the specific initiatives that I was told getting hired here that was a must. Drugs need to be dealt with, burglaries need to be dealt with, and property crimes in general. We're way over the national average, way over the state average, I think almost double. That's significantly changed, especially in burglaries. And I think a lot of it has to do with that second bullet, which is neighborhood watch. While we've seen ebbs and flows of that, it's really tough this time of year. It's cold outside. Nobody wants to come to meetings. I get that. We're going to try to figure out how to come to you. We did it here. We do it through YouTube. I think we can do the same thing with education and getting people together. There's got to be a way to do the next level of neighborhood watch because it works. Once you have the intestinal fortitude and the strength to call the cops when something bad's going on and you know about it, it changes everything. It really does. From what you can see out your window to what you know is going on at the office, it's a big deal. My advisory committee, you know, I think while it's been interesting to learn the culture, and I've gotten a lot of help from my advisory committee, I think one of the key things they said to me at the last quarterly meeting was Monte Vista is a better place because of the police department. That was their cumulative quote. And I think if that's anything I'll take away from this job, is that's a good thing. If we make this a better place, that's a win. That doesn't mean we're perfect in every way, but I think that's a win, and that's exactly what they said. So I'm happy with that, and I'm always welcome to feedback. I even had suggestions in there for you to think about for the revitalization of not only Neighborhood Watch, but just what we're doing in general. Because you do see the cops out there. You do have interaction with them. You do see what the crime's like. I get talks with Ken all the time about what's going on at the motel. So it's tough. It is tricky. Things happen so fast. We don't always even know. We don't always even get called. So we're always open to that. But the bottom line is if we can make it positive difference, that's a win. Coffee with a Cop will continue. I really enjoy it. I like the partnership with not only the radio, but the paper. They're there. You know, I'm not typically quoted, but when I am, it's accurate, and I appreciate that. You know, it's a big deal to me because Lord knows I can say things that could be taken just the opposite. SRO, I think we're winning in every avenue there. I've gotten nothing but positive from the Delta Center that has a real hard time with their interaction and police, all the way to the middle schools that are outside the city limits, which gets a little weird when you're trying to police outside of your jurisdiction. But the sheriff's been gracious. Everything seems to be working in that realm, so I'm really happy about that. We only lost one officer in 2019. That is a win. But we've been trying to replace 2 open slots the entire year. So while retention is good, recruitment is horrible. This is a tough place to want to be a cop. It's a tough time nationally to be a cop. So help there is needed. You know, whether it's local or not. I mean, bringing qualified applicants into the fray is a big deal for us. And I just had a talk with HR today about how we can think out of the box. I mean, it's his suggestion to think outside of the box. So I'm open to that. How do we bring in someone, some real quality young adult, and turn them into a police officer, as opposed to maybe taking the people who want to be police, send themselves through an academy, and maybe they're not exactly what we had hoped for in the first place. I've seen that done. I've seen them kind of flip the script on that, take a really good person and turn them into a really good police officer. Well, it's very expensive, and it's not always super successful. I remember one guy in particular, there's a lot of stories like this. His first night in the car, not even graded, not driving, no responsibilities, after an entire 6-month academy and about $10,000 from the city I worked for, said, this is not for me. And you can't write a contract that's going to change that. You just can't do it. So it's a tricky proposition, but something that's very needed. We are still struggling greatly in that area. And you guys are trying. I appreciate everything from the wage increases to the replacement schedule. I think that's been what's helped our retention. We still have to kind of figure out this, this recruitment thing that can get us candidates that can stay long term. I talked a little bit about we increased the fleet. That was awesome. We got some kind of lucky breaks with some used cars. The K-9 unit's very strong. We got really good help from the K-9 fund. I think it's over $35,000 that we've raised and been able to put into that with the city's help for not only the salaries but the cars that we currently drive, and there'll be more of that to come. Lots of grant money coming through, not only post, but the feds for bulletproof vests and some other things. Building improvements, we're squeaking out some real changes over there. I'd love maybe in the next couple months when council gets settled, you can come look at the police department. If you haven't seen it in a couple years, you won't know any different. If you remember what it looked like a couple years ago. It's significant. I should have done a better job of documenting the changes because it's quite the transformation. And I think that's, again, helping with the happy home concept. and the police officers are happy. The next phase is the locker room and a few window upgrades, because we got some pretty rough windows back there, broken, don't shut right, no screens, and so that some of those kind of things will help too. IT's been great. We're up to 9 cars with mobile data terminals. That's a big deal. We can run people, we can do reports, we can do a lot of stuff from the cars. So we're into the 21st century in that area. Already talked about training. We're beyond what we have to be doing there, not only internally, but what post requires. So my focus for CACP accreditation is this year. The policy manual's almost done. I'd really like to get the nod from the Chief of Police Association that we're doing a good job, that we're in line with best practices, and they agree. 1 cent sales tax will be a big part of educating and implementing and planning for that, so that's exciting. You'll get a full report on LEAD and some of the amazing things that Monte Vista has pulled off in the last 8 months. I think you'll be thoroughly impressed. And then another thing that I personally want to get in place is an awards and recognition program for the officers. There is nothing. They have absolutely no awards or recognition program in place, except for the Monte Vista ambulance chooses to recognize life-saving awards, which is really cool. We had 4 last year. I think there were 6 officers totally involved, and they were most of them were for Narcan, opioid overdose in progress, and Narcan injections, and they saved several people's lives because of the Narcan injections. So that was part of it, but it needs to be better than that. And then the last piece, which I can't speak too much about, is we're getting because I don't understand it, but I have an officer who's very techie with the ham stuff, and he does understand it, and we're getting a really good organization formed with ham radio operators, the sheriff, our base station, and the possibility of having a pretty high-powered emergency operations center right here in the back of the building. Between the generator and the ability to run this building, no grid at all, could be pretty significant if something bad were to happen, or if something pulled resources so far away from us, we had to stand alone just for normal operations. I think both are a possibility with 6 counties and the size of the valley and all the different, not only natural but not so natural disasters that can happen. So the last 2 pages that I'm going to speak about are just kind of a recap for the last 4 years of, again, burglary at the top, and I did a line graph that kind of shows it going from a high of 62 down to 31. Our drug cases, while they have remained fairly steady, I think that's fairly significant when you talk about how many people believe that they feel a decrease in the amount of drug activity, peripheral paraphernalia, the people walking the streets, the things that are going on. We're still able to kind of pick at the cases. My canine guys feel at times like we're not making a dent because we're still finding things. Well, look what we've done to find things. We have CIs in process right now. We have a canine program. We have LEAD. We have all these things. Well, those cases are still being made. They're resulting in a change in behavior and a change in the culture. And we're probably catching and or building cases that we never have before. Theft cases, all I can tell you is theft of chains. Our shoplifts have gone through the roof. We went from an average of 25 shoplifts to 50. So we've doubled the shoplifts, but we've generally dropped every other theft, so we've actually decreased thefts overall. So our goal for 2020 is community watch inside the businesses. And I think some might have actually seen, I got a complaint the other day from one of our shoplifts who's been banned from just about every business in town, and he's really mad at me. Well, that's part of our plan, so I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. So, but I did have a chat with him. Crashes, I put that on there because I was a little bit surprised how high they were in 16, low they were in 18, and they're kind of back to normal in 19. But we went from, we actually had 20 crashes in the last 45 days. So thanks, Mother Nature, we were on a roll, but no more. So the next one, M1 holds. This is So an M1 hold is actually a non-custodial arrest. You take someone who is not of sound mind, is either a danger to themselves or others in some sort of capacity, or just beyond the ability to care for themselves, and you take them into a custody situation. Look at that line. That average has doubled in 4 years. That's significant. That's nationwide, and that's Monte Vista. That's crime. I talked to you guys about statistics. Prisons, 80% diagnosed mental illness. 80% of inmates. There's your crime. We got to work on that, and we're going to figure that out. Lead's a big part of it. There's a lot of money coming through the governor's office on that, but that's going to be a big deal. It's not the cop's responsibility to solve that, but we're definitely a stakeholder. We're a player, and we're happy to help and see how we can figure that out. The last 4 items, use them how you want. DUIs are tricky. We spend a lot of money on DUIs, but they can be very detrimental. I mean, DUIs are one of the most preventable crimes on the face of the planet, and yet they're not going down. They're going up, and marijuana didn't help. Stolen cars are a metro nightmare. We don't have them. We just don't have them. That makes me very happy. So don't quit locking your car, but it's a good thing. And then marijuana, it's a bizarre thing. Our cases have gone up since the legalization. So I don't know what to tell you. I don't really know how to document it because these aren't juveniles. These are cases of illegal grows, possession over the legal limit. I didn't even include the juveniles. This is adults, then they're going up. So I don't think the experiment's working personally. And then the crime events are listed there, and you have a beautiful graph that I completely tasked my IT ability, but I got it done. And I'll give you kind of an idea. And anybody that wants a copy of this, I'd be happy to email. I don't think there's any problem with that. It's all kind of open records and public. And then the last 6 pages are the breakdown of those crime events. So when I talk about theft, there's 8 different categories of theft. When I talk about burglary, there's several categories of that. So if you have any questions about how that all works, but I'm most proud of the very far right line, and that's the clearance rate of that. I can't necessarily stop crime, but we can hopefully solve it. That's kind of one of our secondary priorities is we'd like to prevent it, but once it's happened, sure would like to solve it. Our clearance rates we didn't track them before, so I don't know what they've done, but I feel really good about the number of cases they solve. When you have clearance rates around 100% on most categories of crime, that says a lot about completing your case, being responsible for making sure you're investigating things, you're getting it to the DA's office. What they do with it after that is not documented anywhere and is not part of that. That's a clearance beyond us, and we don't document that. I don't think it's very favorable, but that's not in my wheelhouse. What was that word, Mayor, that you used?
Gillywag.
It's not my gillywag. That's all I have, and I won't see you for a month. So if you have any questions, that'll be your time. I appreciate that. I think we will.
I appreciate what you and your department do. You guys have done an amazing job.
Thanks.
And I think a lot of it, like you said, it's people that are actually not afraid to say something anymore. So the community is speaking again.
I agree.
And it's like the drug issue, I think that's becoming more, it's not as visible as what it was because people are standing out and saying, hey, turning it in, making that call. And so,
I agree. Thank you for that.
Appreciate what you guys do.
You made a comment about, some things are up and some things are down, but I'm looking at this chart here and just about every major issue, everything has been reduced since you've been here. And I want to congratulate you for that. Some of them substantially, like burglary and theft. And the rest of it has been, some of it is just maintained because you're fighting and doing everything you can. But in general, across the board, I see pretty much almost everything in crime areas reduced. So thank you very much for your service.
Thank you. Thank the guys, every chance you get. I mean, it's really where the rubber hits the road, there's no doubt about that. I just yell a lot.
Yeah, so do I. I got a story to tell you.
All right, well, thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Chief.
Chief.
Nita?
So what I'm handing to you right now are the letters of interest for the vacant council seat. So we have a work session scheduled on the 7th. So what I need to know from all of you, if you would like for interviews to be done on the 7th, if you would like to just discuss it amongst yourself at the work session and then make that vote on the 16th,
What time on the 7th is the?
6 o'clock.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Last time we did this, we did interviews, I think, or did, at the work session.
Yes, we did.
You did. And I do have interview questions if that's the route you choose to go.
And that went well, in my recall, so.
Can we all take time to look at these?
Absolutely. If you want to let me know by the end of the 7th, so. Don't let me know by the end of the 7th, so let me know next week. If you'll let me know Monday, or if possible by the end of tomorrow. And you can send me email even after we get off, because we close at 11:30, but I'll check my emails and make sure that I have everything prepared for Monday. And then Tuesday for the work session.
Does that sound fair to you guys?
Sounds good.
That gives us time to, we can look at them and then let you know if we want to do interviews or what we're going to do.
And then one last thing, I just want to remind citizens who have businesses within the city of Monte Vista, the 1% sales tax did pass. Therefore, as of January 1st, 2020, you will need to increase your city tax to 3%. We were currently at 2%. We are now at 3% due to the passing of the 1% tax. So if you're out there listening, please make sure that you increase that 1% on your sales tax. That's all I had.
Yeah, thank you. All right, council reports. Who wants to start?
Well, since I've been on the job for like 2 hours, I don't have anything to report.
Throw that at you, man.
So, wait, I can't see the clock real well. It's got glare on. Maybe it's been 2 hours. Oh, it's only been an hour and a half, only an hour 20. Okay. My bad.
Well, I could make up for that.
Please don't.
Don't. Come on, this is good stuff. Come on. But just a couple of things. Coffee with the Cop you mentioned, and what is the date? Is it next Wednesday?
It is. It's the 8th at 8 in the morning at Rain Brews, but normally it's the first Wednesday, but because the first was Wednesday,
Right.
and that weren't going to be open, so that kind of changed it. So it'll be, yes, this coming Wednesday.
The Rain Brews. Okay, good. And we already made an official welcome to Councilor Foster, but I wanted to reiterate that welcome. Discussed the county vote on Sky High, and that was, we've already talked about that, but it was a kind of it wasn't a huge dollar amount compared to the total project, but it was a substantial step forward, and that we can't say that enough. Well, already talked about all of that. Oh, well, let me at least acknowledge something I didn't get involved with much, didn't even know it went on. But congratulations to Ms. Rose Kranz for coordinating that emergency effort. I thought she was here. Maybe not. Okay. The gas outage that happened in Del Norte. And I guess probably everybody else knew about that. I just was I wasn't in the loop, I don't know, but I read the reports about it, and it was phenomenal. The fact that, I mean, that was her thing. She wanted to just get that started, and whoa, here comes the opportunity to exercise that. And what I read about it was a phenomenal response and coordination of everything else that needed to be done. So I wanted to officially recognize that. I thought I saw her. She wasn't. Okay. Well, you tell them. But that.
Thank you.
But other than that, covered everything else on the list. So you're.
I don't have anything today.
You don't have anything today? Well, first thing I want to do is thank Kathy Lorenz and Kathy Ellithorpe for being on council and serving, because it was been a trying time. We've all learned something, so don't give up hope, because I'm not a politician either, so it works. I bite my tongue a lot because of it, but and then also just reach out to the PD again. You guys are doing a tremendous job. I see it. I see you guys out and about. This community is coming together, and it's something that we haven't seen in a while. And I believe we're taking one little step at a time to get where we're at, but each little step's counting now. We're not making that 2 steps forward and 5 steps back. So we're coming together. Thank you, Tara. Appreciate that. So, and everybody here, Rob had a shout out on Facebook. It came to my attention, but it was somebody really complimenting the city crews for getting out there and getting the streets cleaned. And it was very well liked, and yeah, everything came, it was great. So shout out to the guys, and you can tell them all, the community, kudos to the 2 or 3 complainers.
I actually received 0 complaints this month.
Nice, very good, yeah, very good. Yeah. So I know we had a lot of events going on. Appreciate what the city done for the holiday festival and everything else that was going on. It was great. It's good to see things happening. So with that, I had nothing more. Does anybody else? Meeting recessed until the work session?
January 16th.
You'll
have a work session on January 7th, and then their next meeting, January 6th.
Okay, so meeting recessed till January 16th, 6 p.m.